Genius Quotes presents Vincent van Gogh's Genius Quote. An artist needn't be a clergyman or a church warden, but he certainly must have a warm heart for his fellow men. As we advance in life, it becomes more and more difficult, but in fighting the difficulties, the inmost strength of the heart is developed. If you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. Do not quench your inspiration and your imagination. Do not become the slave of your model. Love always brings difficulties, that is true, but the good side of it is that it gives energy. The fishermen know that the sea is dangerous and the storm terrible, but they have never found these dangers sufficient reason for remaining ashore. A good picture is equivalent to a good deed. I can very well do without God both in my life and in my painting, but I cannot, suffering as I am, do without something which is greater than I am, which is my life, the power to create. The more I think about it, the more I realize there is nothing more artistic than to love others. Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? I wish they would only take me as I am. Those Dutchmen had hardly any imagination or fantasy, but their good taste and their scientific knowledge of composition were enormous. If boyhood and youth are but vanity, must it not be our ambition to become men? I often think that the night is more alive and more richly colored than the day. The best way to know God is to love many things. There may be a great fire in our hearts, yet no one ever comes to warm himself at it, and the passers-by see only a wisp of smoke. I am still far from being what I want to be, but with God's help I shall succeed. How can I be useful? Of what service can I be? There is something inside me. What can it be? The way to know life is to love many things. In spite of everything, I shall rise again. I will take up my pencil, which I have forsaken in my great discouragement, and I will go on with my drawing. Paintings have a life of their own that derives from the painter's soul. I feel that there is nothing more truly artistic than to love people. For my part, I know nothing with any certainty, but the sight of the stars makes me dream. One may have a blazing hearth in one's soul, and yet no one ever came to sit by it. Passers-by see only a wisp of smoke from the chimney and continue on their way. I experience a period of frightening clarity in those moments when nature is so beautiful. I am no longer sure of myself, and the paintings appear as in a dream. I see drawings and pictures in the poorest of huts and the dirtiest of corners. If one is master of one thing and understands one thing well, one has at the same time insight into and understanding of many things. Conscience is a man's compass. One must work and dare if one really wants to live. But I always think that the best way to know God is to love many things. It is not the language of painters, but the language of nature which one should listen to. The feeling for the things themselves, for reality, is more important than the feeling for pictures. Even the knowledge of my own fallibility cannot keep me from making mistakes. Only when I fall do I get up again. There is no blue without yellow and without orange. When I have a terrible need of, shall I say the word, religion, then I go out and paint the stars. Love many things, for therein lies the true strength, and whosoever loves much performs much, and can accomplish much, and what is done in love is done well. I put my heart and my soul into my work, and have lost my mind in the process. Painting is a faith, and it imposes the duty to disregard public opinion. It is better to be high-spirited, even though one makes more mistakes, than to be narrow-minded and all too prudent. I dream of painting, and then I paint my dream. Poetry surrounds us everywhere, but putting it on paper is, alas, not so easy as looking at it. I try more and more to be myself, caring relatively little whether people approve or disapprove. Great things do not just happen by impulse, but as a succession of small things linked together. Find things beautiful as much as you can. Most people find too little beautiful. The heart of man is very much like the sea. It has its storms, it has its tides, and in its depths, it has its pearls too. Everywhere we look, complex magic of nature blazes before our eyes. Color in a picture is like enthusiasm in life. One must never let the fire go out in one's soul, but keep it burning. Your profession is not what brings home your weekly paycheck. Your profession is what you're put here on earth to do, with such passion and such intensity that it becomes spiritual in calling. Doing little things well is a step toward doing big things better. Normality is a paved road. Idige temes, comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow on it. Many people seem to think it foolish, even superstitious, to believe that the world could still change for the better. And it is true that in winter, it is sometimes so bitingly cold that one is tempted to say, "What do I care if there is a summer? Its warmth is no help to me now." Yes, evil often seems to surpass good. But then, in spite of us, and without our permission, there comes at last an end to the bitter frosts. One morning the wind turns, and there is a thaw, and so I must still have hope. Exaggerate the essential, leave the obvious vague. What am I in the eyes of most people? A non-entity, an eccentric, or an unpleasant person, somebody who has no position in society and will never have. In short, the lowest of the low. All right then. Even if that were absolutely true, then I should one day like to show by my work what such an eccentric, such a nobody, has in his heart. Art is to console those who are broken by life. If one truly loves nature, one finds beauty everywhere. Close friends are truly life's treasures. Sometimes they know us better than we know ourselves. With gentle honesty, they are there to guide and support us, to share our laughter and our tears. Their presence reminds us that we are never really alone. I confess, I do not know why, but looking at the stars always makes me dream. I am seeking, I am striving, I am in it with all my heart. I am always doing what I can't do yet in order to learn how to do it. Art is something greater and higher than our own skill or knowledge or learning. That art is something which, though produced by human hands, is not wrought by hands alone, but wells up from a deeper source, from a man's soul. In spite of everything, I shall rise again. What is done in love is done well. I never get tired of the blue sky. It is only too true that a lot of artists are mentally ill. It's a life which, to put it mildly, makes one an outsider. I'm all right when I completely immerse myself in work, but I'll always remain half crazy. Try to walk as much as you can, and keep your love for nature, for that is the true way to learn to understand art more and more. Painters understand art more and more. Painters understand nature and love her and teach us to see her. If one really loves nature, one can find beauty everywhere. And then I have nature and art and poetry, and if that is not enough, what is enough? The beginning is perhaps more difficult than anything else, but keep heart. It will turn out all right. So often, a visit to a bookshop has cheered me and reminded me that there are good things in the world. I began to paint again, even though I could barely hold the brush, but knowing exactly what I wanted to paint, I began 3 more large canvases of large wheat fields under cloudy skies, and it did not take a great deal to express sadness and loneliness. I believe these paintings say what words cannot. I take great care of myself by carefully shutting myself away. To suffer without complaint is the only lesson we have to learn in this life. Christ is more of an artist than the artists. He works in the living spirit and the living flesh. He makes men instead of statues. Let's not forget that the little emotions are the great captains of our lives, and we obey them without realizing it. The only time I feel alive is when I'm painting. The more I become decomposed, the more sick and fragile I am, the more I become an artist. The more you love, the more you suffer. Just slap anything on when you see a blank canvas staring you in the face like some imbecile. You don't know how paralyzing that is. That stare of a blank canvas is, which says to the painter, "Veej, you can't do a them-JTM." The canvas has an idiotic stare and mesmerizes some painters so much that they turn into idiots themselves. Many painters are afraid in front of the blank canvas, but the blank canvas is afraid of the real, passionate painter who dares and who has broken the spell of "you can't" once and for all. If you end up falling in love with someone, it's because of them. If you end up hating someone, it's because of you. But you people do not understand me, and I am afraid you never will. There is peace even in the storm. All art is a gift. It is first of all a gift that the maker can do it. It is then a gift to someone else, whether they pay for it or not. The wonder of it is that we cannot get the production of these gifts stopped. Art is life seeking itself. It is our intractable expressions of love for the beauties, ideas, and epiphanies we regularly find. I framed the painting. It's now hanging in our den. I have walked this earth for 30 years and, out of gratitude, want to leave some souvenir. Keep your love of nature, for that is the true way to understand art more and more. I long so much to make beautiful things, but beautiful things require effort and disappointment and perseverance.